An interesting thing happened when I uploaded my video about Rayshard Brooks. I lost 0.5% of my subscribers, actually less than 0.5%. That's 8. 2 have been replaced since then. So my net loss is 6, and that's okay because my channel's not monetized, and I can't really. I always knew that if you're going to tell something that you're sure is true, even if it's an honest mistake that you make, but if you're telling something that appears to be true to an oppressed group of people, then chances are you're going to. Then you can't win a popularity contest, and so since you can't do that, you can't rely on the popularity. So I'm okay with it because I was prepared for it. I've already been told, you're going to tell the truth, you're going to go through what the prophets went through. And I actually hold back a lot of things because I don't have the patience to go through what the prophets suffered. Peace be to them. And notice I'm saying prophets, not prophet. The prophets were always opposed, and always their opposition came from their own people, without exception. Noah was ridiculed, but he didn't drown. Lot was ridiculed, but he didn't get buried alive, nor did he get turned to a pillar of salt, nor did he get raped, nor did he rape anybody. He and his followers made it out. Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was fought against, and I think he even had a chipped tooth, or he sustained some injuries in battles. But in the end, the idol worshippers did not achieve victory over his people. And when I say his people, I mean the Muslims. And so what I'm getting at is that I'm not even a prophet. So I understand, and I knew from before that this is not going to win me any popularity contest. That's okay, because I was prepared. But what I would like for black folks to do is to admit that even though I didn't really say anything controversial in the Rayshard Brooks video that I put up, other people are going to say things that are controversial with evidence to back them up, but they're going to say things that are controversial, and we need to have these uncomfortable conversations. So, controversial conversations that we need to have are different from cooning. And so I am all for us shutting down the coons. But how do you know the difference? Here's how you can tell. The coon never goes in on one side and always goes in on the other side, and they're doing it for the approval of the side in on whom they never go. I.e., the coon is going to criticize black people, never criticize white people or white society as a whole, and they're doing it for the approval of white society. That's the coon. The controversial converser is going to tell you things that may not be comfortable, but they're going to tell you in an internal fashion, and they're not doing it for the approval of the enemy. They're doing it for the opportunity for your improvement, your self-improvement, for the reform of their community. I'm going to tell you this. The community does know how to reform. The problem is that our reforms happen too late, but our deteriorations happen too quickly, and that's why we remain behind. We do reform certain things, but the reforms are late, they're delayed, and they're never as sweeping in scope as the deterioration. So most of us, a lot of us younger black folks stopped eating pork. Great. You know what? Gangster rap still took off though, and that took off over knucking fight. Now we're in a situation where we black folks need to be able to make sweeping reforms and overnight. Yes, over knucking fight. No more excuses about how this is going to take time and, well, these are just teenagers and they ain't going to do that. No more excuses like that. No, over knucking fight. Reform and not deterioration. This is a necessity. So just as quickly as gangster rap turned around and changed the culture and made it more negative, and I said it that way intentionally, we now are going to need to change our taste in music. We need to go back to the Public Enemies and the Poor Righteous Teachers and Ice Cube when he was spelling America with the triple K. Death Certificate, Paris, the rapper, not the city, dummy. We need to go back to that revolutionary, militant black nationalist type of rap if we're going to listen to it at all. And we need to support it and make it popular again. Maybe even cats like Immortal Technique, at least what I have heard from him. And we need to have that kind of reform. We need to be a different musical market than what we are. And I'm not even promoting music, but the point I'm making is that we need a sweeping revolutionary change for the better over knucking fight. In order to do this, we're going to have these uncomfortable conversations, but they need to be internal. Because you start cooning when you bring in people that are not us, whose only interest is to denigrate us, to keep us at the bottom, because just like white folks use them as a buffer between white folks and us, they use us as a buffer between them and the floor. Because they know that they're standing on our shoulders and on our heads, which are much softer to stand on than the actual floor. And they get mad when we got room to dance because that means, or they get scared when we got room to dance because they know that we might actually, when we start jumping and agitating, they get scared because then they might fall off our shoulders and on this hard behind floor that we've been standing on with their weight on top of it. Yeah, it's deep, isn't it? But we got to have these conversations, not cooning. And we don't need to let the coons in on it either. We got to have it with us, just us. So somebody non-black probably will be able to hear this message of me, from me to you. But when you start actually having these conversations, don't let them in on it. And when I say black folk, I'm not just talking about black Americans either. I'm talking about black folk, period. Starting with any black person of any nationality, if they're also Muslim, starting with them. We need to have these conversations first. But we black folks are going to have these conversations, especially with our families, about how reform takes place so effing slowly in our culture and how deterioration overnight, just like that, quick, fast, in a hurry, blink of an eye. The time it takes a bulb to light up a room, we deteriorate in some way, form, or fashion. And we make progress like molasses. We got to stop this mess. That's our problem. And in order to do this, we're going to have to discuss how to change it. And I'm going to tell you 2 discussions we need to have, and then I'm out, inshallah. Number 1, many white male teens in the Western nations, the U.S., Australia, the U.K., Canada, as an example, Western Europe, some parts of even Eastern Europe, like Poland, many young white male teens are learning that the game between the genders is rigged against them, and they're just not doing it anymore. That now they're just saying, you know what, shuck this fit. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm done with it. No more of this. No, I'm not. I may be drawn to women, but I'm not going to pursue them because I know what's out there waiting. Now, they made a decision that is intelligent for them. We don't have enough young black teenage boys making the same decision, because we men did not want to have the uncomfortable conversations that I said in previous recordings we're going to have with the young brothers in our families, against the disapproval of the lady relatives, especially whichever ones are raising these young brothers. I said we got to have it. I said this, started saying it more than a year ago. Started to focus on it more within the last half year. We ain't done it. Guess what? Well, now the studies have shown it that now you've got TikTok, teens going their own way among white male teens, but we don't have this enough among black male teens. The black males that are young and are going this route are the ones who are usually the only black friend of their white friends. That's the problem. Shuck that fit. No, I want the June bugs, the shines, whose friends are black, who go to black schools, who are going to go to black HBCUs or black trade schools and work with black folks and socialize with black folks, to be the ones to lead this. Because that's what's better for us. That this is organic among us, not copied from somebody else. Although it's good and it's practical, we can't copy it from others because then they'll dictate the terms under which we get to do it, right? But we don't dictate the terms under which people get to imitate us. So the second conversation we're going to have is going to be about how our teens are even reached with messages of positivity. The problem with the positive message directed at our teens is that it has to come from an ex-street nigga knucklehead. That's not fair to the ones who start their lives off when they're young, walking the square path. The path that our teens usually refer to as lame. Square and lame are not, they shouldn't even mean the same thing, to be honest. But unfortunately, among us, they do. Well, that's a cultural problem we have. We need to have this discussion with the teens. And we need to let them know your culture sucks. Straight up, your whole idea of not wanting to be a square and calling square the same thing as lame is up. And you need to change it. And it's an inferior culture until you change it. Inferior to what? It doesn't matter. I'm not about comparing us to others. They're jacked up too. But it's inferior to the results that you actually want and deserve in life. Shout out to MOT, who points this out in a different context. In the end, we're going to have conversations in which some of us are going to say, you just cooning. But in fact, you know the difference, because you ain't saying this in front of non-blacks, definitely not to win their approval. You're saying it in a closed circle among black folks so that they can fix these things. We got to have this conversation with the teens, and which the teens of both genders, and whoever, with their guardians, whoever's raising them, so that the guardians know to be on code about one thing, and it is they're not going to tolerate any more foolishness coming from teenagers in the name of, well, they're just teenagers. I don't feel a guck. Well, you know, he was 17 when he did this. Man, I don't feel a guck. How come he doesn't know how to write today? Because when he was in school, he was too cool for school. So he didn't pay attention. Now he's illiterate, can't punctuate, can't spell, uses words outside of their proper meanings. And then when you call him on and you tell him your message was so poorly written, why couldn't you be this woke when you were young in an English class? Oh, snob, elitist ass nigga, you know what I meant. And how does he spell it? O-L-E, because he thinks it's actually spelled O-L-E. S-N-A-W-B. A-C-C. N-I-G-G-A. He gets that part right. No punctuation. Elitist. E-L-L-E-E-D-E-S-T. Right? You know what I meant. E-W-E. The female sheep. N-O. W-H-U-E-Y-E. M-I-N-T, because he was too cool for school when he was younger. And we need to have a talk with them that they're going to have to change that goddamn culture. And we got to stop condoning this stuff. Oh, because they just teens. Man, shuck this fit. Not only is that a fallacy, there's no biological stage in which a kid is necessitated, I should say, to rebel against good advice, sound advice from older people. No, that's when they know better, not when they don't know any better. That's a fallacy. And secondly, black teens aren't allowed to get away with this dumb stuff anyway. A white teen who's a senator's son might get to do stupid stuff like drag racing down a busy street and get away with it with a slap on the wrist. You already know a black teen can't. A black teen can barely run from someone that's chasing him in a car and get away with it. That's the difference. Do you see what I'm getting at now? We are suffering more for the same errors. And it's not just in terms of police brutality, it's in terms of everything. So we're going to have to tell our kids, look, you ain't going to get away with this stuff no way. So when someone comes to you with a message of positivity, please stop demanding that he be an ex-street nigga knucklehead. Please be willing for your own good to listen to not only the ex-street nigga knucklehead who can give you valuable information about the road you're on that he used to be on, but also you must be willing to listen to the square, not the coon, but the square, meaning the one that was just responsible, square dealing, paid attention when he was younger so he could, the one that had his head on straight when he was younger and walked that walk. And now was reaping the benefits at an even younger age than the ex-street nigga knucklehead. We need to change that mindset. That is important. If we don't change that mindset, among the teens, it doesn't matter what you tell them, because the ex-street nigga knucklehead can tell them what's wrong with the road they're on, but he can't tell them what's right about the road that he did not take when he was younger. If the kids can get both perspectives of both roads, then they can learn. They can have a bird's eye view map in their head of the two roads and what they're going to lead to. That's how you fix things. In order to do that, we're going to have to change their culture. And in order to do that, we're going to have uncomfortable conversations internally, of course, like I said, with them and with whoever's raising them. Because black folks are going to have to change our cultures. We got different cultures, but we're going to have to change our cultures as a whole. And we're going to have to do it collectively. That's why we call it culture. And to do that, we're going to have discussions that right now aren't pleasant. But if we start, it will become more pleasant over time. Believe me. Fortunately, I was able to keep this message under 20 minutes. Thank you for listening. Took me 8 tries to get it this short. I hope that one day this message will no longer be necessary. Until then, I hope it helps. The blackest-hearted, blackest-minded, blackest man signing black out again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And black, heterosexual, square, male power, specifically because the matriarchs, the gynocrats, their mandingos and goons don't like it.